Hello, hello, Kai.
And
Thank you for joining me in my little virtual studio. Let's tell the world who you are and what you do, please.
yeah, thanks, Lucy, for having me. It's a while since we last talked. Yeah, who am I? I'm a German. I'm a lawyer by
Okay.
background. I worked for a couple of companies like Lufthansa in the early days, and then for around 12 years or so for SAP. And later, then I joined Deloitte as a partner and KPMG as a partner. And since a year, I do kind of I would call it sabbatical. So I'm focusing full of on my think tank that we have co-founded 2018, the Liquid Legal Institute. That's one of my role, and we have also co-founded in 2023 a AI startup, as everyone does these times, right? So our own
Yes.
LDA startup, and I'm fully focused now on that one. So this is
Okay.
fantastic, and yeah.
Doing so many things. So you and I met when we were regular in-house corporate lawyers working our
Teenagers.
way, right? Contracts, right? Weren't we just contracts tech? That's when we met, if I recall, years and years and years ago.
Yes.
And we both sat on the now World Commerce Contracts.
Contract. Yes.
Something,
WCC.
right? Yeah. WCC now. Yeah, it's WCC now, and I love them, and they're great. And I actually had some chats with Sally. They're great. But we've watched contracting transform for a few years. You and I, we've seen a few things. So before we get to all the cool stuff you're doing with Liquid Legal, and I want to hear all about the AI, the AI experiment you're running as well. But let's give those folks who are joining in, like, what can they do from those of us who've lived it and breathed it? Contracting automation, in-house contracting. I just want to hear from you. What should in-house lawyers today do? If we were talking to our younger selves 15 years ago, what would you advise yourself?
Do exactly the same stuff over and over again, because nothing has really changed, right? So it's still an adventure to go into a company and ask how are your contracts managed, and you will find out we have an Excel there that has all the information, right? So yeah, when I graduated in law and asked myself what I can do with that, I came up with the idea of doing something in-house. First of all, I liked to be in-house. And I joined the procurement department of Lufthansa. And then I asked the funny question one point in time, how you're managing the contracts, because I was negotiating a lot of contracts. And they said, yeah, this lady is doing that. And then I asked this lady, and this lady has an Excel. So the old story. And then I started thinking of that and built my first contract management repository managed on Excel at Lufthansa. And I did that and talked about that like you do, right? So we go out and talk about that on conferences. Yeah. And I was hired by SAP. And at SAP, they had a very interesting and very intense time. They had a product called By Design. Yeah? And the idea was that this is serving 100,000 customers in a year, and we need a fully automated contract management solution. And Kai, could you please build that? And I joined SAP, had the ideas on the solution, but this product never launched. So I had great visions, but no real business to serve. And then I started digging deeper and say, how is that managed here? Yeah, and I became then the global process owner. So my role was understanding the process around contracting. There was none, and we were building back then. We were building these big process maps, if you recall, right? So everyone was doing processes, and I analyzed all processes, so all various contract types around the globe, and all the deviations between regions and stuff.
But can we pause and just say to our younger selves and to those who right now are living it, that's still the first step. I don't care how cool the technology is. That's still the first step, the process. Mapping it right. Don't you agree that actually hasn't changed? Unsexy. No. Nobody wants to hear me say it over and over and over again. But if you can't map your process, what are you going to go automate? What are you going to do? I mean, do you?
And first learning already this, there is an ideal process. That's the one you capture easily. Yeah. And then there is a real process that deviates from the standard, right? And you need to capture both. And then you have, 20 deviations. And that's the magic, right? Because then you understand how flexible your system need to be in order to really fully function.
That's the magic. You're so correct. And all of course, all I do all day, every day is talk about, but why, but how, but what is it? How does it feel? they don't know, and everybody's still just rushing to technology, and that hasn't changed at all. The rush to technology. Now,
Yeah.
having said that, that's the grumpy old me talking. Let's talk about though what AI has done. I mean, it's been a hyper boost in some ways. So I, of course, have lots of thoughts and opinions. People are sick of hearing mine. Why don't you tell us what are your thoughts on what is AI really going to potentially do for contracting? What do you think before we get to your specific project?
Yeah, what I don't like about this AI discussion is that this is supposed to solve now all the problems, because it doesn't, right? It's a helper, it's an additional tool in our toolbox that we can leverage, and there are great ways on leveraging it for our daily use. But still, I think still there is a need for a CLM solution platform, whatever it is. So you first organize, and then you
say that again. A steel M. So what solution? Say that again. A what? No, seriously, I didn't hear you. A steel M solution? No.
CLM solution.
CLM.
Contract life cycle. You know that.
It's still
We define the flow.
It's still morning. That sounded like I was kidding and setting you up to say it again. I swear, I misunderstood it. I was like, what is this? Did I miss some new tool I don't know about? Correct. A CLM solution. I do know a thing or two about that 3-letter word. Back to you. Sorry, Kai. Go ahead. Yes. So do companies still need CLM? Everybody's asking, is CLM dead? That's the big.
Yeah, but then there comes the magic of AI, and could be perfectly used for extraction of certain data, so that you can fill up your metadata repository. I remember the days when we discussed, okay, you have now your contract lifecycle management solution, CLM, right? And it has a couple of header data and metadata that you can also store. And I think that's not really necessary, or you can still do that, but you can pull it live out of the contract and then link back to the contract. So this is features that are super, super helpful. And what I've seen recently, and probably that was the last session online that I did with a company from Switzerland, they simply took standard contract templates plus the last 20 or so negotiated contracts, and they built a playbook with AI, right? So generate your own playbooks for a contract type. And this is something we were dreaming of back then, right? That we can say, make kind of a median middle ground contract between everything that I've negotiated and what I would like to see. Yeah. And this is something that the large language model can do better than anything else, right? So here I see a combination of the two, but still you need your repositories, you need your processes, your signing, your approvals, whatever you have.
Right. Okay. By the way, for yourself or tested them? Are you playing with some of them, the AI contracting solutions?
Yes, all the time. So we have an own group, a CLM dedicated group at the Liquid Legal Institute. So we have various working groups, and one is dedicated to CLM, and they're working on stuff. For example, they're working on this great idea that two people in this room had, I think, contract layering together with Helena Hapio from Finland and others, right? These very early ideas of contract layering and then having different layers. This is something you can easily do. You can do this contract for a 5-year-old and do this for the finance department and do this one for the technical guys and make this a list and make this a graph or whatever. You can do everything with that. And this is all of AI use cases within CLM.
Okay, so let's take a step back for our peers in house, right? They're trying to figure out. I've got Copilot. I mean, they're still just entering in and experimenting, which is great. There are also some of them are buying very specific AI solutions designed for legal, for contract review, which is great. I think you've always been ahead in thinking about. That's why you have a think tank. And tell us a little bit about Liquid Legal Institute. What is a think tank, and what are these projects you're all working on? What does that mean for the users? Like, are you building products for sale, or is it experimental? Tell us a little bit more about Liquid Legal Institute.
Yeah, the idea of the Liquid Legal Institute is based on conferences where people met and shared on stage this shiny new world of legal tech and what we can all do, which is partly right, but partly fully made up. And afterwards, we met for beer in the bar or at the hotel room, and then we discussed what's the true adventure that we have been on, right? And that's the idea of the first book. You see the books behind me, and the first orange one that contains also a chapter of Lucy Bassli. Yeah, and you talked, for example, about your adventure at Microsoft when you started to outsource something, and it took you 2 or 3 approaches until you finally get there. And that is the idea. It's not about failure and celebrating failure. It's more that it's hard, right? Transformation is hard, implementation, adaptation, everything is hard, and it needs a lot of sharing and caring. And if you just exchange amongst the corporate, and that was our starting point, we have a sharing platform, right? But we also wanted to do a step more. We wanted to be a group of doers and shakers. So we are outcome driven. We would like to have people proposing to us certain project ideas, for example, contract layering or writing a joint book on CLM. I think you provided a forward for that.
Sure.
So our lessons learned on our CLM implementation stories, and then you have that as a kind of a practitioner guide from practitioners to practitioners, and that's what we do, right? So we come together as a group. We leave the titles at the door, and then try to create this atmosphere of trust where we simply exchange. Plus, we would like to allow everyone to join us. So public sector, private sector, the law firm side, the in-house side, all ranks. So that's for us very important, that we create kind of a prisma on the legal market. And it's not a lawyers club. It's probably the most dominant group are the operational people. So we are currently running a round table for legal ops that you also attended one time. This is currently running, with 30 plus people, 30, 40 people exchanging on whatever. I don't know who's presenting today, but this is the idea of the think tank, that we provide a platform for the open exchange of like-minded people with the same background for the transformation of the legal market.
I love it. I love it. It sounds like a really substantive. I know it sounds like. I mean, I've been involved, not as much as I should be probably. But the idea that people are they're really there to do. They're really there. This isn't because it's a conference and you're on a stage. It's the opposite. It's extracting the people that you've heard that actually are doing something interesting. Those are the people that it sounds like are definitely who you're trying to attract. So tell me a little bit about the projects you guys are running. Like, how are those? Who supports these? How do people do this on their part-time jobs, lives? What are these projects, and how do people get involved? I'd love to share.
So we use all our free time for that. We have a employed staff team that runs the show, but else it's all people that do that in their leisure time. We have 1,500 plus members already around the globe. So our official language is English. So if there are only Germans in the call or only French people, they talk French or German, but else it's English is the main language. All publications are in English. And the current project that we have is, maybe pick out two. One is we have these working groups, and legal tech is one of the pillars, but there's also one that cares with methods, processes and methods. So how to work agile in legal department. So all these technology. And then we have one that cares for laws and policies. So future regulation, computable law and stuff like that. And we have one that's close to my heart. It's people and organizations. Because we learned how important that is, also based on my learning from SAP, that in the end, the hardest is to really change a system. I could change teams, I could change here and there, I could improve the processes, but in the end, if the system has fear on adapting, then so how the whole thing works, and that's why we came up with the idea to focus a little bit with this group on the transformation architecture. So transformation, not a single instance, something we do occasionally and then it stops like a project, or it's achieved like a project. It's more transformation architecture means we need to build something that goes deep into the DNA of a enterprise, and that people really understand transformation is something that doesn't go away, right? Something
Amazing. I love the last part. I think, you and I probably will agree when you say you like to focus on, the people, the organizational aspect it's all about the people. It doesn't matter what tech, it doesn't matter what people, changing people's behaviors, having the right people put all of their effort into something really succeeding. It's people, whether you're building, whatever, but making hamburgers or building cars or trying to do transformation. I can see why that's important to you. And I absolutely share the same perspective. I also love this concept of transformation. I want to talk to you a little bit about, so I did a second book on CLM, and instead of calling it CLM, I said contracting. So it's contracting simplified, where there I put together a framework for enterprise transformation, because to your point, And it's small, it's a handbook. It's really these are the 5 elements everybody needs to understand before they try to think they're going to fix contracting by buying a tool. It's everything else, right? It's all and it's not just the specific tactical things. Do you have templates? Do you have playbooks? Do you have policies? It's not even that. It is, do you have an executive sponsor who really gets it?
Yes.
Are they driving by example, right? Are they, what is the enterprise's aptitude with technology? What is their appetite for change? These aren't plus minus answers or 1 zeros, these aren't binary. You have to, if you don't understand the cultural history, the decision-making dynamics at a company, you can't succeed with these kind of transformations and all these other elements that we've kind of extrapolated and realized. Things like ownership, contract ownership. Let me ask you that spicy question. Who should own contracting at an enterprise like SAP,
like Microsoft, right?
The little companies? Who should own contracting?
Yeah. We had this for debates, this debate for decades, right? So yes. It's, and still there's no volunteer. Yeah. So, but if you step up and say, I do that as I did at SAP, then you have a job, right? So this is
job security. I've always said contracting, job security. AI and not AI. I'm not worried about the jobs going away quite yet. But now I have to ask about what are your thoughts on that? Whose job in the contracting universe is AI really going to impact in the next few years? What do you think?
I'm super relaxed. I think we're always hyping stuff, and then you see Claude Cowork, and everyone says, but this is now the major change and traffic, these new skills. Wow, no, it's just making things a bit better. But if I don't know, if things are taken away, you can then concentrate on the real stuff and important stuff, and maybe do contracting right to the last mile and meter. Yeah, just understand the contract landscape fully instead of just fixing problems, right? So I see that still as a very, very important part of the enterprise, because as we said and agreed years ago, contracts are the lifeblood of an enterprise. Yeah, without contracts, you cannot run an enterprise, and you cannot sell it, and you cannot be sold. Yeah, so what do people do? Due diligence. Yeah, they look into contracts. So this needs to be in fine order and organized, and also the way you close contracts, that's still right. So if it's lengthy and legalese and not really fun to use, it's not used. Yeah. So and this legal design thinking that we started years ago is still so super important. Yeah. Start with the addressee in mind. Yeah. So for whom am I doing this? Yeah. Is it a small enterprise? Yeah. And there is no legal department. Write the contract in a way that this person can read it, understand it, and sign it in one go, and not, consult a law firm for that.
A Harvard law professor, or Baker McKenzie, or any of these other audiences. You're completely right. I mean, these are business, these are business documents. I mean, they're documents created for a business purpose, and yet we turn them each one into a law school exam. If I can find every possible thing wrong, I'll get an A+, and that is root and core to the problem of contracting that we have to address that. You can't just keep trying to kind of wipe away the top, when underneath there's this deeply embedded need for the legal professional to identify every single nuance in a contract. I think also what happens when we talk about contract management and contracting improvements, everybody comes at it from such a different angle. You have to first start with saying, when you say contract management, tell me what you mean. It sounds like a stupid question, right? It sounds like, how do you, Lucy, not know what I mean when I say contract management? But I have no idea if you're talking about completely opposite ends of the spectrum. I can't find my contracts. I don't know what's in my contracts. I don't know where my contracts are. That's one bucket of problems. My legal team is overwhelmed. We have too many contracts coming in. I don't know what kind. I don't know what's taking them so long. I don't know why we're doing which contracts. I don't know about that intake, right? The intake. The workflow. Two very different use cases for contracting automation, but you're automating completely different things. Workflow automation is very different than a really smart repository. So these end-to-end CLM systems, many of whom we know, some of whom I like, some of whom I'm not a big fan of, but these end-to-end systems, they do paint a utopian image of contracting, because they tried to tackle workflow and intake. They try to tackle repository and smart, data extraction, and the third bucket of inside the four corners during live negotiations: redline, editing, review, copy, pasting, finding clauses, actually live time where the business is going, where's my contract? So do you find that you have to, are people talking the same language? And I don't mean English or German. I feel like when I say contracting, I have to ask, what are you actually talking about? There's pre-signature, post-signature, and everybody divides it into, there's no taxonomy. There is no common taxonomy for contracting.
There is one that we created, and I'm still adhering to it, right? So I think we had a meeting back in, I think it was New York or so, where we agreed on this bubble chart that is a circle in the end, and start with, governance, strategy, and then it has all these, 5, 9, whatever steps. And you created also this clock-based framework. That's also pretty useful. I think there are some reference points out there, but still there's confusion in language. I fully agree. It started with my own journey when I was talking about contracts at SAP. People at SAP, technical people or business people, had the idea contract means purchase orders. Yeah, so we're taking purchase orders and not contracts. So I was talking about a paper contract that has clauses in there, and people understood a business object in SAP system, right, in the ERP system. Completely different, right? And I'm not sure whether this is now semantically solved, that people understand when I'm talking contracts that I mean legal contracts. But yeah, it's still an adventure. And
but you know what I see still, the confusion between the technical, all the different, especially the whole older or the heavier CLM systems. It's taken them almost a decade to stop talking about when they say workflow versus template. They say template, and the legal professional's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a Word document. It's got blanks, right? It's got blanks. It's got things that's saved as docs, like doc. It's the systems folks are thinking, I'm going to configure your template. They're talking about a workflow template. They're talking about a template inside their system. Just that word alone, we see this all the time because we sit in the middle. We sit between the vendors and the users. We're like, wait, you're not talking about the same thing, and for them it is so basic. How could we not be aligned? Complete misalignment. So we've been watching that, for a decade plus. Now enter AI. So now the CLM companies are struggling to grab AI, build AI, adopt, acquire little companies that have AI. They want AI at the beginning for workflow and intake support. They want AI during the negotiation phase and helping put the right words in and build playbooks using AI, which I've not seen that done yet. Well, it still takes a ton of human oversight. And then, of course, AI for extraction.
But I think the beauty lies in the combination of deterministic and probabilistic approaches, right? So whatever is there defined, right? And if you have a fully functioning, well-managed clause library, that's something static. That's something you can still use. So why not turning that into an asset that you can use with retrieval augmented generation and then have your chats against your database? So if you have fixed processes, use these processes. Yeah. So everything that can be defined and is determined. Yeah. We should also think that within this brave new world of agents that do stuff, right? Else you come with this crazy MCP world and you're connecting data into something, and then you need so many humans in the loop that you can do it with the humans itself and skip the agents then. Yeah. So it's somewhere in the middle. So deterministic plus probabilistic. I think this is the way to go.
I like this. This is interesting. Deterministic. Okay, that's that. Again, I don't know if we have a little bit of a gap between, I think, the knowledge of where you are, where you're going, and some of our peers and colleagues who are still going, okay, I'm going to just save as on my C drive.
An interesting observation, Lucy. It's not this anymore. It's just talking to your laptop, and then it's waiting.
That's right.
Until the AI has done the job, and then it's reading, and then it's discussing again. So I see people just, I don't know, interacting with the computer without typing anymore. So it's interesting.
I think there are people that do that. I think in the reality of our profession, though, I'm still seeing very little changed. I see curiosity, I see interest, I see FOMO, a lot of FOMO. I see small, gentle experimentation, which I support. I think that's great. I just don't see commercial contracting as evolved in the last 15 years the way we would hope. I still see the risk tolerances are super low, the fear factor super high. In-house teams are still wanting to hire more lawyers. I did have one in-house team reach out to me. It was a great question. I love this question. They said, we're about to we posted a position for we need another commercial lawyer, which I don't ask. I'm like, do you? Okay. I assume they do. And then they said, we were trying to hire, and through all of our interviews, it became clear that there were very good commercial lawyers, but they had no interest in improvement, automation, innovation. They were just like, I'm very good at it. Imagine the interviews these days. Oh, I can negotiate with my friends at SAP. I did it for 13 years when I was at Microsoft. I'm a good negotiator. I'm good, I feel like that's only half the conversation. The other half is, but after I did 5 contracts with SAP, what did I learn about the 6th one? And how did I manage to do it faster? And how was the 7th one faster? And the 8th one handed off to somebody else to do? And then by the 9th one, am I automating it? And what this company did, and this is a real, a company we would all recognize, they said, we're going to stop interviewing. They reached out to me and said, can you help us actually answer the question of, do I need another lawyer? Or really should I be really doubling down on AI? I mean, the good and bad news for them was, I don't think you're ready yet to just hire a robot, but the lawyer you're hiring really better embrace that robot and be your number one fan, of using the tech. So, are you seeing a shift in the roles of commercial lawyers in-house these days?
Yeah, but as you said, this is the lawyer with AI will replace the lawyer without AI. So
That's
that will
right.
happen. But this is the normal fluctuation even, So this, I don't know, people just, I don't know, move out of the business and new comes in. But yeah, you should really tell our kids and the students and young professionals that they should be at least open and interested in new stuff and test around a little bit, test the water. We had this, you need to become a coder, you need to become the prompt engineer, blah, blah, blah. Nothing happened, right? So you still have to have a clear mind and be a bit clever. That always helps. And maybe that hints to the second part. We asked for the thing that we're doing at Liquid Legal Institute. The one is the transformation architecture we discussed, but the other one is legal foresight. And I like that a lot because with that, we have a structured approach looking into the future. And what we, for example, do is that we detect little signals, and signals are stuff written on LinkedIn and blog posts, and we have identified 30 reliable sources, but we have an entire network of people reading stuff, right? And people can now send their signals to a central inbox, which is a little form, Microsoft Forms, and you fill it out, put in the URL, and then it does a extraction. So it reads the contract, it then applies it to our model. So we have a model that asks relevant questions, and in the end decides whether this is something that we should dig deeper and understand better or not. So whether there's an impact. And from that, weak signals can turn into strong signals and even trends. So we would like to see earlier what's happening in the market and what's coming. And we have legal foresight events on that. We just conducted the second one, which is super interesting because it's intense. We combine these people. We invite 30 people in a room. And then for an entire day, we do impulses of people looking way forward. And then we do hands-on work. And for example, we have built 50 trend cards on what's coming in future. And these cards define one future. And it tells you it could be this way or that way. So you have these kind of poles in between how this AI could evolve in future. And with that, we can build axes and then put these trends on axes and build scenarios. And this is super interesting. We define one X as this digital transformation, whether this is kind of incremental, so getting more and more. So this is the one axis, or it will be, I don't know, superpower AGI changing everything tomorrow. And on the other X, on the vertical X, on the horizontal X, we have the rule of law, whether it's super strong or super weak. And based on that, you can build wonderful scenarios. So if you're super digitized, everything is digital and AI driven, and you have a strong or weak rule of law, you can define scenarios that are probably very close to our heart, because we see things being
Wow. So
destroyed.
you're talking about legal, trends and forecasting of macro world events.
Yes.
This isn't like my contract is good or bad. It's not. You're going big picture.
Yeah, but for example, if you weak rule of law, that could also be that there's a strong corporation law, yeah, so that the Amazons of the world set the law, yeah, so then you're not adhering to your civil code, but then you're adhering maybe to, I don't know, Amazon or Meta terms and conditions, or not even, right? So, or yeah, you have to invest more in your contracts. You have to invest more in mediation, because there is no court that functions in a way that you have your court ruling within a year or so, right? So if this takes you ages to come to a conclusion, contracting changes. So that's why we need to have this outlook on what's coming and how things are changing worldwide, yeah, because that influences our day-to-day business.
Wow. So, okay, we're at time. So I always promise that we're going to be at time. I know 30 minutes goes super fast. My mind is blowing. I think you kind of blew my mind a little bit at the end here. That wasn't fair. You kind of saved that till the end of like, we're gonna determine the series of world events and how we're gonna contract for those with these mega conglomerate companies like Meta and Alphabet. And so we're gonna let people absorb this. I'm gonna go ahead and thank you so much, Kai. We can stay on here and gossip a little bit. For everybody else, we're going to say goodbye for now. But we'll certainly look for comments in the chats and things. We have to talk more about these future trends. My mind's blown. I'm at a loss of words. That never happened. So let me say goodbye for now. And thank you.